This week, our focus is on the Lutheran understanding of vocation. The word vocation means calling, and we believe that God calls us to the various roles and responsibilities we have in our daily lives. And we have four primary vocations. Our calling in our family, as a parent, a child, spouse, aunt, uncle, whatever. God calls us to serve Him by loving and serving our families. We also have our vocation at work, in our jobs, where we serve our employees or our employer, as well as our customers and clients. We also have our vocation as members of our society. We're to be active and involved and seek the welfare of our community in which we live. And as Christians, we have a fourth vocation in the church, our calling to share Christ with the people around us. Of course, as human beings, we're flawed and sinful, and so the way we carry out our vocations is also flawed and sinful. We fail our families, we cut corners at work, we neglect our neighbor and fail to share Christ with others. We get impatient with others and hurt one another. And yet, despite the hardness of our hearts and the sharpness of our edges, God still works through us, caring for the human race through our vocation.
Well, thank you, everyone, for reading the chapter in the book, The Spirituality of the Cross, about vocation. And we're just going to open the discussion up, first of all, to see if there were ideas in the chapter that really stood out to you that you'd like to get the ball rolling with our conversation.
I think early in the chapter, in fact, it might have been the first page, the fact that they said, seldom do you have somebody say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody says, at least I don't know of anybody, I want to be nice. I want to help people. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's always, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a fireman. So I think to me, that opened up the whole theory of vocation is way beyond a job description or way beyond where you see you categorize yourself.
Yeah, I believe he says vocation is wherever you're present.
Right.
And so, I think it's pretty broad, honestly. I mean, parent, neighbor, aunt, uncle, just wherever you are, wherever you're present, really is your vocation.
I think the point here is that we are called to lots of vocations in our lives, and we could all sit here and list the vocations that we are part of right now, and they're varied.
I think the part that described the four estates of the vocation, the family, the extended family portion of that, there was the community, there's the church, and there's the engagement of others. I think that alone, when you look at it from those four different perspectives, really opens your mind as to what the possibilities, what it all involves as far as vocations are concerned.
Right. Caleb, you had said something a little earlier about vocation in terms of love.
Yeah, so one thing that I took from this chapter was really enlightening for me was that how he said our relationship with God is based on forgiveness, but our relationship with everyone else is based on love put into action.
I think that's really a great point.
Yeah, I know the first chapter was about, chapter 1 was, I guess, more about how God comes to us. And in this chapter, I thought it was more how God works through us. I guess, if that makes sense.
And we don't know when someone is going to need our love either. Whether it's a clerk that we see, or maybe even something that they say back to us in love. That
I liked how he said, for me, visually, we wear the mask of God. So every day we wear the mask of God, even though we're a parent or a volunteer, or we're always wearing that mask of God. So I think that was a good reminder for me.
And also that God is working and caring for the human race through other human beings. So it's a very important job, what we do daily, just the ordinary things of life.
Yeah, and the ordinary things that are done for us. That's one of the things that is humbling about the idea of vocation, is that we're dependent on so many other people in our lives, and that when we're in a restaurant or going through the grocery store, that those people that are there helping us or serving us, those are masks of God, as Amy says, that they're God there helping us along with our day and along with our lives.
Were there things here that were challenging for you in the chapter?
Greed.
greed.
Yeah,
What's the motivation for the vocation?
So, a lot. I don't know. Truthfully, I don't even remember how much that word is even mentioned in the chapter, but they definitely hint at it and talking about how certain vocations rely strictly on greed, run strictly on greed, and how that's not what God intends.
I think something that I'm just taking away from this chapter is thinking about when somebody asks me, "Oh, what do you do?" How can I respond to that differently? Instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm the next gen director at St. Mark's," or "Oh, I'm a teacher," or "Oh, I'm a doctor." Like, how do we phrase that differently?
Go beyond the title.
Absolutely.
Because we are so much more than that, and made for so much more than that.
Right. Great point.
Yeah, a title tries to simplify it almost, but yeah, it's a lot broader than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does it turn us into what we want people
That's
to know?
Yeah,
Ah,
That's a
That's
good
the
thought.
power.
Yeah.
You
That's
know
the
what?
as a boast.
As a
Love
boast.
it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Love it.
Another form of greed.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Right.
That's
Look at me, look at me.
And making it about us.
Exactly.
That's right.
Again.
Let me tell you about what I do.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So important.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
point. I think we just had another aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting when he talks about that discernment of your call, when talking about what you are going to feel you're going to choose to do, or what God has in mind for you to do. You
I
know.
think it goes a little bit along with the greed too. I mean, greed can be more than just, we often want to tie greed with money.
Right.
But it can also be greed in a sense of trying to, fulfill your own desires. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right.
As opposed
Achieving
to
power.
Right.
Yeah.
Achieving power, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the chapter talked about all of us have a vocation, and it doesn't matter what that vocation is. We can see people in all walks of life serving others, and I think that's the bottom line, is that we are there to serve our neighbor. It talks about the calling as such that there's certain gifts that we are given to go ahead and utilize, and that some people kind of ignore those at times and go into something else, and yet still find that they miss the boat a bit and aren't able to serve others the way that God had intended.
I think we put a stigma on even children and adults. Like, for instance, our daughter played volleyball through her entire, high school, elementary. You're going to go and play volleyball in high school, right? I mean, that's the expectation. You work at a job for 10, 15 years. You're going to work there till you retire, right? I mean, I think we just think that, that vocation is like a lifetime thing, but God works in us in so different ways that it comes time that, for myself, I've been in the same career, in the same field for 25, one place 5 years. So I've been doing it for 30 years. And now I'm kind of the point where it's like, what's next, God? I know you've got me here, and I know it's a vocation, it's paying the bills, but is this what I'm called to do now? I mean, is there something else out there? And so this chapter, vocation, it was tough for me, because you're in that influx of, should you stay where you're at? Should you, where do you, even not even being within the same job, but is there something else, Lord, that you're to serve you in whatever way that might be? Is that a direction that you're taking me? So this was a tough chapter for me.
But even as you grow older, you have a career or a vocation that you've been in for 30 some years, and then you retire. And then it's amazing how new opportunities are open to you when you change and go to another stage of life.
And I think that's important, Lois, that, some of those changes aren't our choice. We may end up being a single parent or a single person at home, losing a spouse. And that's a vocation we have to adjust to.
And one of the quotes I think that he had in there that might help us to remember that is, it says, God does not need our good works, but our neighbors do. So if you think about the vocation you're in and how that applies and how that can be helpful to people around you.
Or just having enough energy to do what God has called us to do, to love one another, to serve one another. That's a hard balance in today's world.
And to do it to the best of your ability. You're doing this as a mask of God. You're being His hands and feet and voice in the world. And so that really puts an importance to it that we can't forget, to do your best in whatever, no matter how ordinary, how mundane the activity might be. You don't know exactly how that's going to impact God's plan.
Right. Just be faithful where you're at and trust God with the rest.